everyone. My name's Gina Buckles. I'm one of the advisors at 401k Plan Professionals. Thank you for joining our Navigating Student Loans. We're very excited to host this today. It was about a year and a half ago, I think I started talking to Bill Harmon, and we've had a number of conversations, Zoom meetings, and I've just been so impressed with what Thrive has been doing to help people navigate student loans, whether it's consolidation or even loan forgiveness. They've been doing amazing things. They also have some creative solutions for employers as well. And it's not just student loan debt. It's other stressors that your employee demographic might be feeling. So they've got some great things going on. And again, today we're specifically going to be focusing on that hot topic of navigating student loans. So I'm going to introduce the Thrive team in a moment, but I'd first like to start with just a little bit of housekeeping. Again, here's our team. Thank you again for joining us. And this is part of our webinar series. So we do host a webinar almost every month on a variety of financial topics. All of these webinars are recorded. So this will be recorded. You should get a link, the recorded link that you can share with your staff. You can share it with your friends, family, anyone you think that this topic might help. All of our recordings, all of our webinars you can find on demand on our website or our YouTube channel, and that's 401kplanprofessionals.com. That'll also give you an opportunity to register for any of our upcoming webinars as well. So again, make sure you check that out. Questions. I know there's going to be a lot of questions. So please feel free to put those questions in the chat or the Q&A. We will watch those throughout the presentation. If we don't get to them, we'll definitely make sure we have time at the end to answer all of your questions as well. If you have questions afterwards, you can always email our team too. So wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Definitely want to allow time for questions. And now I think I'll go ahead and introduce the Thrive team. So I'm very excited. As I mentioned, I know I mentioned Bill's name earlier. Bill has been the president of Thrive since last year. He has an extensive background in retirement services in the financial industry. He has had executive roles at both Voya and Empower. So we're really excited that we started that conversation a year and a half ago, and had an opportunity to meet Bill and understand, again, just the great things that they've been doing. Also, we have Beth Krasnow. Beth is an attorney and a financial advisor. She has deep experience, knowledge, expertise in this area. This is really important right now as we have a new administration, policy changes. So we definitely appreciate her depth of knowledge. And last but not least, we have Aaron Longino. Aaron's going to be taking us through most of the presentation. Aaron has an extensive background as well in insurance and financial wellness, but eventually found his calling as a student loan advisor. So he's really in the weeds. He has a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge as well, and we really appreciate this team being here today. So we have the A team. So thank you, Thrive, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Perfect. And I'll kick it off. If we can go to the next slide and just cover up the topics that we have. We have a little bit of time together, but there's been so much news out there about student loan debt. Are they on? Are they off? And what we're talking about specifically with this student loan debt are federal student loan relief programs. And so with all that news that's been going on, we would love to go and share some information on what's happening today with income-driven repayment plans, loan forgiveness, because again, these have both been in the news quite a bit lately. An item that really hit the news was the week of May 5th, letters were sent out to over 5 million borrowers that were in default, that they will be sent to collections. There's another 5 million in the pipeline that will be receiving the letters soon as well. And then the next step is that those people that receive those letters about being put into collections will also be sent to garnishment. So their payroll provider or the payroll managers of their companies will be told to garnish wages. So this is pretty emotional, obviously. So with this current administration and a lot of these changes, it's a great time for us all to get together and say, I'd like to have a high level understanding of what is available to me. And I'd also like to know, are there resources that can guide me through this gauntlet? And it can be very confusing and complex to navigate the federal student loan relief program. So by the end of this 30 minutes, I hope you'll have exactly that. A high-end understanding of the programs, the federal student loan relief programs that are available, and know that you do have a resource that through 401k plan professionals and Thrive to help you navigate all of this. So I don't want to take any more time. I want to turn it over to the experts, Beth Krasnow and Aaron Longino, to go and walk you through these items. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. So I'm going to kick it off real quickly because really the meat of this is all Aaron, and that's who you're going to want to hear from. He has so much knowledge and experience and does such a deep dive into everything student loans. So one little piece of housekeeping, you're going to hear great stuff from Aaron. Questions are going to come in. I'm going to try to pause Aaron from time to time to throw some questions in. We're not going to get to everything. On every slide, or almost every slide, you're going to see a QR code. That is the way that you can sign up to talk to Aaron or one of our student loan advisors and let them review your loans. There's no charge for that, but it's a great way to know what you have, what options you have, and all the things Aaron's going to talk about today. You're going to realize that you're probably going to vote, similar vote, or maybe your family members are. So utilize our resources. We're here for you. We're all in this together. We know it's a crazy time. The rules are changing, the laws are changing, and it's, a daily, a daily change. So Aaron and his team are on top of it all. So use them as a resource. And I'm not going to waste up any more of our time. Aaron, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. As was mentioned before, I'm Aaron Longino with Thrive Student Loan Advisors. Today we're going to speak about student loans. We're going to try to focus in on income-driven repayment plans or qualified plans, student loan forgiveness, as Bill said, May 5th, and the differences of what's going on. So income-driven repayment plans or qualified plans for most forgiveness programs, they're based on what the IRS calls your discretionary income, essentially your income and family size. At the end of your repayment period, whether it's 120 qualified payments under an income-driven repayment plan, whether it's 240 qualified payments under an income-driven repayment plan, or 300 payments, qualified payments under an income-driven repayment plan, at the end of that repayment period, everything that's left is forgiven as long as you're in a qualified plan and you recertify that plan annually. All income-driven repayment plans are technically only for 12 months at a time. They have to be recertified every year. If you do not, you are not technically on an income-driven repayment plan.
Aaron, I have older FIFA loans. Would they qualify for an income-driven repayment plan?
Not in the way you're asking. There's a loophole sometimes for that, which I won't get into. It doesn't apply to very many people. But no, FIFA loans on their own, they do not qualify for these forgiveness programs that we're discussing or income-driven repayment plans. But they can be made to qualify. When in doubt, have your loans reviewed, and we'll be very specific about what that looks like.
One more before we move on. My loans were in forbearance for a long time because of a financial hardship. Will those months count towards forgiveness?
On their own, no. If it was an economic hardship deferment or a forbearance, if it was not already converted by the temporary account adjustment that expired last year, potentially. And myself or one of our advisors will have to look at that period to see, but potentially that time can be bought back, potentially. So if you look here, this is your average borrower, family of five. They make about $55,000 a year with about $50,000 of student loan debt. Every federal borrower assumes that letter that comes in the mail with their first student loan bill, that's just what their bill is. That's the amount they must pay. The Department of Education actually has about 70 different options for repayment. That bill that comes in the mail, that's just a default or standard repayment. If you look here, this borrower would be expected to pay $530 a month. In this economy, for a lot of borrowers, that's wholly unaffordable. Over the course of a 10-year repayment, this borrower would have paid over $63,000 in student loans, far exceeding the amount in which they borrowed. If you take that same borrower, all things being equal, except for you put them in a qualified plan or an income-driven repayment plan, that same borrower pays over $400 less a month. Over the course of repayment, they pay almost $40,000 less. And this is with a 20-year repayment, 10 years longer than a borrower that paid over $63,000. The difference is this borrower is in a qualified plan for a student loan forgiveness program. So at the end of their 20-year period, or 240 qualified payments, this borrower would expect to have $35,318 of their federal student loans forgiven. That's the difference in a qualified plan and just your default standard repayment. These plans are something most every borrower can take advantage of.
Aaron, can my Parent Plus loan be repaid under an income-driven repayment plan? And if so, what are the requirements?
So our federal government, in their infinite ineptitude, limited the plans that Parent Plus loans can go into. To answer your question, no. On their own, Parent Plus loans don't qualify for these programs. Now, they can be made to qualify, but they are limited in the plan that they're able to go into one of the most expensive plans. There still is a loophole available to some borrowers that will open up the rest of the plans for Parent Plus loans, but on their own, they do not. They have to be made to qualify. When we talk about student loan forgiveness, what loan types are we talking about? What is that we're really saying? Student loan forgiveness is a program for federal student loan borrowers where you have X amount of payments, as I mentioned earlier, whether it's 120, 240, or 300, as long as you're repaying under direct loans, which is why Parent Plus loans, FIFO loans, Perkins loans, while those loan types on their own don't qualify because they're not in the direct loan program. They have to be made to qualify. So as long as you have federal loans that are direct under the direct loan program, you make your requisite number of payments, 120, 240, or 300 in a qualified plan. And if you're someone that qualifies for public service loan forgiveness, there's the added benefit, or a requirement, I should say, that you work for a qualified employer, at least 30 hours a week on average. They'll say full time, but at least 30 hours a week on average. If you follow this circle, at the end of your repayment period, everything that's left will be forgiven. Doesn't matter if it's $3, $3,000, $300,000, or $3 million. If you do your part, which is follow these steps, at the end of your repayment period, everything that's left will be forgiven.
And I'm a single borrower earning $40,000 with $40,000 in federal loans. How do I decide which income-driven repayment plan fits best now that SAVE is gone?
So SAVE, which we'll talk a little bit more about momentarily, it was a newer income-driven repayment plan that was introduced by the last administration. It was literally the difference in being able to make affordable payments and not. It's gone. But there still are income-driven repayment plans, some that have been around for decades before SAVE was introduced. A single borrower with $40,000 in student loan debt, making $40,000 a year, I'm assuming that's pre-tax, after tax. This is a borrower that likely has a repayment plan that'll work for them. It's based on your individual discretionary income. I would say have your loans reviewed sooner rather than later. It's very possible you may qualify for a $0 a month payment or close enough not to make a difference. I would have my loans reviewed immediately. There's a plan for you.
Under an income-driven repayment plan, would a $0 monthly payment count as a payment at all?
Oh, that was a great segue. It's like I set that one up. So when your income-driven repayment plan dictates a $0 a month payment. Not only is that considered a full and on-time payment, but it's reported to the credit reported agencies as if you made a full and on-time payment, because you have. Government math doesn't always work the same as regular people math. $0 a month payment absolutely counts as if you're making a payment and towards the forgiveness of your student loans. Speaking of forgiveness, 90%, 98% of people that actually qualify for most forgiveness programs, public service loan forgiveness especially, but most forgiveness programs, they never get it. 98%. Statistically, most everyone listening is among that 98 or among the 98%. Usually, not always. Usually the issue is with your servicers. The servicers are your Mohilas, your Nailnets, your Air Financials, those in which you make your payments to. Anyone has ever spoken to me or seen one of our webinars, they'll know I'm not a fan of the servicers. I'm of the opinion they do what's in their best interest as opposed to the borrowers. Mohila, for instance, literally said in open court, student loan forgiveness is not in their best interest. They lose money when loans are forgiven. A reasonable person would think, well, how do you have my best interest in mind if your best interest conflicts with my own? I'm not a fan of the servicers. When you speak with your servicer, you almost need to know the answer to the question you're presenting first. But there are also other barriers to student loan forgiveness. There are administrative difficulties. Times like this, when administrations change and political philosophies change as well, there are processing delays. There are some programs given less priority. There are loan program problems. While you, as the borrower, may qualify, your loans may not. If you're in doubt about a forgiveness program, have your loans reviewed. We'll tell you exactly what it is you need to do to qualify if you do not already.
All right, a couple of questions from this. My servicer changed recently and now my payment history looks incomplete. I think I had over 15 years of payment records, but the new servicer only shows 5. How do I get that corrected?
It sounds as if either you had a servicer that no longer exists, or you had Fed loan during the time or was transitioning to Fed loan when they went out of business, when they no longer were able to service federal loans. What happens is your servicer reports payments to the Department of Education. So when servicers go out of business, that information is no longer available. They were the ones that had payment information, so they get lost. Usually you can find this information through NDLDS, but it depends on the program you're in if you cannot find it there. There are ways to access this information. You have to get the Department of Education to count qualified time, which isn't always an easy thing to do. Have your loans reviewed. We'll find where those payments went and where that time is and help you access it or have it show up on your account.
Ohila says I'm in forbearance, but I didn't request it. Is that hurting me and how do I fix it?
I can believe that Mohila did this. But what it sounds like to me, and without reviewing your loans, I'm just speculating. It sounds like you're one of 8 million borrowers that were on a SAVE plan. All 8 million borrowers that were on SAVE are currently in a forbearance. The Department of Education is not able to calculate nor receive payments under that plan. If this is the case, you're wasting qualified time. That plan is gone. It's been gone since July of 2024, and it is not coming back. You need to have your plan changed immediately. Have your loans reviewed, and we'll figure out a plan that works best for you. Speaking of SAVE, so what the SAVE plan did and why it was so attractive to borrowers, the Department of Education recalculated the discretionary income, how your monthly payments are calculated. What the courts said last July is that the Department of Education, under no administration, cannot unilaterally supersede the will of Congress. Congress created student loan forgiveness. Congress wrote how student loan forgiveness works. back in 1994. So the courts have said no administration can unilaterally change the will of Congress. So they threw the SAVE plan out. This also had a trickle-down effect on 3 of the other 4 income-driven repayment plans. Barring public service loan forgiveness, all of the plans that used to be qualified plans are no longer able to offer student loan forgiveness. All 8 million borrowers are on SAVE are in a forbearance. They all began getting letters last week saying interest will accrue under this forbearance. There was a memo sent to the Department of Education after the transition of administrations that said the idea was that they'd add interest retroactively to everyone on SAVE, and they began getting those letters. Most people received one last week. If you're in the SAVE plan, you are wasting qualified time. You need to be transitioned to a different plan.
I think you answered this, but just in case there's any parts of this, if I was on the SAVE plan, would those payments that I made transfer to my new IDR plan? Would they count? I'm assuming count towards loan forgiveness.
No, after July of 2024, no payments under SAVE will count. Even if you sent a payment, they held that payment until you move to a different plan. They didn't even actually apply it. They cannot apply a payment to the SAVE plan. Technically, that plan does not exist. So everyone heard in the news something about May 5th, but because our government doesn't communicate very well, no one actually knew what it was about. So we'll explain it here today. Student loans went into non-payment for about 3.5 years due to COVID-19. Once they went back into repayment last year, there was an off-ramp period, or what the Department of Education called an off-ramp period, meaning they would not report delinquent loans, meaning they would not allow loans to go into default for about a year. That year has expired May 5th, and it's been extended. Garnishments have been extended slightly, but that's only to give the federal government enough time to find all the people who are to have their wages garnished. So May 5th was when that expired, when they will begin reporting defaulted and delinquent loans, where they will begin to search for people to garnish their wages. When we speak about defaulted loans, what we mean is you have reneged on the repayment plan you agreed to repay your loans. Your loans are no longer with the federal government. They're with a collection company. This collection company, anyone that's ever dealt with a collection company know what a headache it is. They're charging you 24% interest, 18% compounded daily. And this isn't even the worst case scenario. It isn't even the worst case scenario in a situation where you lose all federal privileges, meaning you're not able to get federal loans anymore, meaning if you're someone that receives an income tax return, they'll take that income tax return, apply maybe $50 to the interest of your loans, and keep the rest. That isn't even the worst case. The worst case is what happens next. You fall into the last stages of default, which are garnishment. There's an actual judgment against you in a court of law. They will garnish 15% of every taxable income you receive, whether it's employment income, unemployment, some investments, Social Security, any income you receive. If it's taxed, they'll take their 15% before they even take taxes, pre-tax, for the foreseeable future. It's extremely expensive and extremely time consuming, excuse me, to get out of garnishment. A lawyer would typically charge between $3,000 and $5,000. And that's here in Ohio. I can only imagine what they charge in some of the bigger markets. You don't want to go into default, and you most certainly don't want to go into garnishment. So what is it that we do? How are we able to help? What can you do to get out of garnishment? The collection companies will only tell you one way, which is a loan rehabilitation, where you make a fair and reasonable negotiated price with the collection companies that you'll pay for 9 consecutive months. The problem is they're collection companies. They can still resell that debt up until after the 5th month, which means you'll make your first payment, you'll make your second payment, you'll make your third and fourth payment. You'll go to make that fourth, fifth, or sixth payment, and the collection company has resold your debt to another collection company. So now you have to not only find which collection company has it, wait on whatever hold time they have for you to speak to a representative, and then come into a whole new agreement from month one. It starts over, your rehabilitation program. There are sometimes easier ways, or more simple ways, I should say, to bring loans back into good standing other than a rehabilitation program, but they'll never tell you about that. If you think your loans are in default, or you're facing default, or default is approaching, have your loans reviewed. We'll be very honest about the best ways to get out of default, and we'll save you from the headache of having your wages garnished.
I didn't even know I was in default. How do I check my status and fix this before it ruins my credit score?
Most people don't realize their loans are in default. One of the more common ways people find out is when they go to purchase a home. There's a credit report that mortgage brokers run. It's a lot more extensive. It comes up there. If you think your loans are in default, or maybe in default, or you're not sure, have them reviewed. Each case of default is different. We'll be specific about how to get your loans out of default. So, as I mentioned earlier, 98% of people that actually qualify for forgiveness never get it. One of the best tools to use if you're someone that qualifies for public service loan forgiveness is a temporary extended public service loan forgiveness application. Most people that don't qualify for public service loan forgiveness is because while they do as the borrower, their loans do not. So when it's time for them to apply for forgiveness, they think they've made their 120th payment, they get denied. It's because the plans they were under were not qualified plans. They do not count for public service loan forgiveness. A temporary extended public service loan forgiveness application is essentially you saying to the Department of Education, look, my servicer who is responsible for making sure I'm in a best planner program, who my tax dollars send tens of millions of dollars a month to ensure this, didn't tell me how these plans and programs work correctly. I was paying more than I would have under a qualified plan, and I'd like that time to count as qualified plan. Under certain conditions, that time can be converted from non-qualified to qualified, but it must be done when those months that will be converted will put you at or over 120 qualified payments. A denial under public service loan forgiveness is not the end. To be frank, is usually the beginning. That's when the real work to get your loans forgiven can be done. Don't let that deter you from getting what you yourself have earned. A temporary extended public service loan forgiveness application is a great tool to achieve loan forgiveness.
What suggestions do you have for someone who has well over 120 months of qualifying nonprofit work experience, but continues, this has got to be every person, but continues to receive misinformation and incomplete reviews and barriers in accessing public service loan forgiveness?
So it's pretty obvious I'm not a fan of the servicers. Even their websites, if you know what you're looking for, they're really nonsensical. But to be fair, the person that answers the phone, they're just someone working a 9 to 5, reading off a computer screen. They don't really know how these plans and programs work. Have your loans reviewed first by a professional. Count the qualified time yourself. But also, there are programs like the temporary extended public service loan forgiveness application, but also the Buyback program for both public service loan forgiveness and the IDR Buyback program. What this says is time that could have counted eligible time, but was not qualified, or maybe you were in a forbearance or economic hardship deferment. You're able to take these months, calculate what your payment would have been, and make a lump sum payment to convert this time from non-qualified or eligible time to qualified time. You do have options. One of the things that we do the most, that fills more than half of my day usually, is going year by year, month by month, finding eligible time that has not been qualified and converting it to qualified time. There's almost always time that should have been counted that has not. A buyback program is a great way to do that, whether it's public service loan forgiveness buyback or simple IDR buyback. A temporary extended public service loan forgiveness application is a great way to do that. I'm of the opinion the best way to do that is to have your loans reviewed. We'll find that time for you and show you how to convert it. Now, exactly what is it that we're able to do to help? The very first thing we want to do, if it hasn't been obvious, is to review your loans. Without reviewing your loans, we're just speculating, and we train our advisors not to speculate. We want to see how many loans you have, how much they are, who holds them, and the status that they're in. That'll give us a better idea as to what to suggest to you. We'll make a suggestion as to what you qualify for, what you could be paying versus what you're paying today, how long you should expect to be in repayment, and how much of any student loan forgiveness the Department of Education expects to award you. At that point, you're free to take the information we've already given you and do these things yourself, or you can hire us to do it for you. For that part, we have a fee. We'll be very upfront about what that fee is, depending on what it is that needs to be done. But also, you can have us just for initial enrollment. We'll enroll you into these plans and programs, do the heavy lifting for you, and leave the maintenance up to you. Or you can have us for a continued service. All the forgiveness programs, all the forgiveness plans we just discussed, they both have to be recertified every year. If you want us to do that for you, we'll be happy to. Things like with the SAVE plan, all of our clients that were initially on the SAVE plan, I think it was about 1,700 or more people. Beginning in August of 2024, they all began to receive emails requesting they schedule an appointment so that we can switch their plan to a qualified plan, so they don't have to sit for a year and waste qualified time. I often tell people, the federal government is going to frustrate you. Don't let them deter you. We'll take on that frustration for you. We navigate these and we'll help you, whether it's just reviewing your loans or not. If you want to sign up for a loan review, the QR code has been on every slide is here. You can also call this number. If you just have a simple question and may not necessarily want your loans reviewed, Beth was nice enough to leave her email address here. Or if you'd like to schedule one on my personal calendar to have me review your loans, that information is here as well.
That's great. Thank you, Aaron. This was hopefully beneficial and gave everybody some food for thought and answer some of your questions. And if you were invited to this webinar, remember that if there's information here that can help your family, your children, your parents, let them know that they have access to us as well. You know, we're out here as a resource, really trying to get everybody to the finish line. So we're here to help whoever can utilize this resource.
Thank you so much, Aaron, Beth, and Bill. You guys did a fantastic job. Again, I think the most valuable thing that you do, obviously you educated all of us today, but it's so complex, especially with these new jobs or these new laws and just the policy changes. There's a lot of fear and anxiety out there. And I think the best thing that you offer is just to be able to answer people's questions and offer a one-on-one meeting. Everybody's in a little different situation and it is complex. So your expertise is very, very much appreciated. I'm just going to check. It looks like we don't have any other questions as of right now. Again, you've got a lot of resources if you have questions later. Just to wrap up, I do want to remind all of you that this is recorded. You should get a recorded link or you will find it on our website. Here's a list of all of our webinars this year. We've got a lot going on. Again, you can use that QR code to register, or you can go to our website at 401kplanprofessionals.com. That's also where we'll house this recording as well. Again, thanks team. You guys did a great job. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.